Welcome to the Choose You Netcast. This is Jim Langlois with the word from Joshua 24:15. Choose you this day whom you will serve, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. It's my prayer that this netcast will encourage and cheer you on as we join forces to draw the line in the sand, defending our faith and our households in the resurrection power of Jesus. Join me each weekday as we dig deeply into God's amazing word and bring up the rich treasures of His blessings. Are you ready?
Choose you this day whom you will serve. But as for me and my house, me and my house, me and my house. I said choose you this day whom you will serve. But as for me and my house, me and my house, me and my house.
Good morning, Networld, and thank you for tuning in. We're starting on a brand new series today. I call it 7 Proverbial Characters. And the names of these 7 characters are the scoffer, the simple, the fool, the feeble, the prudent, the wicked, and the wise. Let's talk about proverbial character number 1. That's the scoffer. We find this person in Proverbs chapter 21, verse 24. It says, "A proud and haughty man, scoffer is his name. He acts with arrogant pride." You see, a scoffer is one who makes fun of by mocking. He is one who is scornful towards others. I'm sure there have been scoffers since the early days of man. However, it seems that this particular type of character will be even more prevalent in the end times before the Lord's return. Listen to Jude, verses 17 through 18. "But you, beloved, remember the words which were spoken before by the apostles of our Lord Jesus Christ, how they told you that there would be mockers in the last time who would walk according to their own ungodly lusts." Scoffers hate to be told what to do. They're ungodly, lustful, they hate authority, and are uncorrectable. If you have ever ministered in a prison or a jail, you may have come into contact with one. They are easy to spot. They didn't do anything wrong. They should not have been incarcerated. It's all someone else's fault. The police, the judge, and the jail sheriffs are all crooked. And if they ever get out, blood will spill. You see, they're smarter than anyone in the world, and no one can teach them anything. That's why they're called scoffers. Punishment never works for a scoffer, because even if they did do something wrong, they believe they were justified in their actions, and it's all because of what someone else did to them. This is why the Bible says not to waste our time trying to correct them. It will only make things worse, and the only recourse is to cast them out and punish them. Oh boy. Many a scoffer has a life sentence simply because they're not correctable, and they will not listen to rebuke. Proverbs chapter 9, verses 7 through 8 says, "He who corrects a scoffer gets shame for himself, and he who rebukes a wicked man only harms himself." Verse 8 says, "Do not correct a scoffer, lest he hate you. Rebuke a wise man, and he will love you." And then Proverbs chapter 13, verse 1, it says, "A wise son heeds his father's instruction, but a scoffer does not listen to rebuke." And then Proverbs chapter 22, verse 10, it says, "Cast out the scoffer, and contention will leave. Yes, strife and reproach will cease." Last but not least, when the scoffer is punished, the simple is made wise. You see, there's a big difference between the scoffer and the simple. Proverbs 21:11 says, "When the scoffer is punished, the simple is made wise. But when the wise is instructed, he receives knowledge." Well, notice when the scoffer is punished, they learn nothing. However, the simple does. Let's talk about this second proverbial character, the simple. A good question would be, why is it when the scoffer is punished that the simple is made wise? Proverbs chapter 14, verse 15 says, "The simple believes every word, but the prudent considers well his steps." Well, the simple character tends to be naive and open-minded, both in a good and a bad sense, believing every word. They're devoid of understanding. Many times they get in trouble not because they're wicked, but because they just don't know better. Some might call them stupid. The problem with simple is, one way or another, we've all been that way. I can hear you laughing, but I'm not sure if it's at yourself or at me. Have no fear, I'm guilty. How many times have you said to yourself, how could I be so stupid? Proverbs chapter 7, verses 6 through 7. For at the window of my house I looked through my lattice. I saw among the simple, I perceived among the youths, a young man devoid of understanding. Devoid means entirely lacking. The difference between the scoffer and the simple is teachable and correctable. The scoffer should just be cast out and punished. However, the simple have the ability to listen, learn, and they typically respect authority. Even though they're devoid of understanding, they can receive understanding. Proverbs 119, verse 130 says, the entrance of your words gives light. It gives understanding to the simple. And that's why we're all simple in some respect, because without the word, we don't have the light. Proverbs chapter 21, verse 11 says, when the scoffer is punished, the simple is made wise. But when the wise is instructed, he receives knowledge. So why is it that when the scoffer is punished, the simple is made wise? Well, I believe it's because when the simple sees the scoffer get punished, they're smart enough to say, I better behave. Back to our prison and jail examples, you can tell when you come into contact with a scoffer, and you can also tell when you meet a simple. The simple says, I've learned my lesson, I'm never coming back here. So in comparing the scoffer and the scoffer cannot be corrected, but the simple can. The simple understands and respects authority, and when they see the scoffer punished, they receive understanding. This is why it's important that the scoffer is punished for the sake of the simple. Let's talk about proverbial character number 3, and that's the fool. Psalm 14:1 says, the fool has said in his heart, there is no God. They are corrupt. They have done abominable works. There is none who does good. Vine's Expository Dictionary defines a fool as insolent in religion and stupid or dull in wise living. Not only are they stupid concerning spiritual truths, but they are stupid in day-to-day living. The most accurate term would be stupid fellow. Well, a fool, much like a scoffer, they also do not respond well to correction. Proverbs 16:22, understanding is a wellspring of life to him who has it, but the correction of fools is folly. And Proverbs 17:10, it says, rebuke is more effective for a wise man than 100 blows on a fool. A fool actually despises wisdom and instruction, and they enjoy evil. It says that in Proverbs chapter 1, verse 7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 23 says, to do evil is like sport to a fool, but a man of understanding has wisdom. And then Proverbs 27:22, though you grind a fool in a mortar with a pestle along with crushed grain, yet his foolishness will not depart from him. Well, unlike a scoffer, I believe somehow there's a bit of hope for fools, a possibility of change. Why do I feel this way? Because Psalm 94:8 addresses the fool with a rebuke. Listen, Psalm 94:8, understand, you senseless among the people, and you fools, when will you be wise? It sounds as if there might be a chance for this character. The recommendation is to boldly say to them, you fool, when will you wake up? In the news yesterday was a story about growing atheist megachurches in America. Well, everyone has a right to believe what they want. Everyone has a right to reject God if they so choose. But here's a piece of wisdom that soon no one will be able to deny. Proverbs 21:30, there is no wisdom or understanding or counsel against the Lord. If you know a fool, pray sincerely that they'll come to the light of the glorious gospel. That's referencing 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 3 through 4. And let's talk about the fourth character. That would be the feeble. Psalm 105, verse 37 says, He also brought them out with silver and gold, and there was none feeble among his tribes. This word feeble means to stumble, be weak, stagger, and totter, unfit for the line of march. It's amazing that when the Israelites left Egypt, there was none feeble, no weak, no staggering, and no one unfit for the journey they're about to take. Another proper definition of feeble would be needy or sick. There were none that needed to be helped, carried, or assisted. But what if there were? If that were the case, they would have helped them, carried them, and given whatever help was necessary to get them out of Egypt all the way to the promised land. A good example is when Syria and Israel returned the captives of Judah to Jericho. There were feeble among them, so those taking them dressed them, gave them sandals, food, drink, and for those who were too weak to walk, they provided donkeys to ride on. 2 Chronicles 28:15, it says, Then the men who were designated by name rose up and took captives, and from the spoil they clothed all who were naked among them, dressed them, and gave them sandals, gave them food and drink, and anointed them, and they let all the feeble ones ride on donkeys. So they brought them to their brethren at Jericho, the city of palm trees. Then they returned to Samaria. You see, the feeble are not scoffers, they're not simple, they're not fools or even wicked. Typically, feeble are those who are unable to care for themselves and need help. They love God, they're sweet, non-violent, but just can't work, walk, or fully function. There may be several reasons, such as a physical sickness, mental sickness, very low IQ, or they're disabled. Have you ever met a sweet person who, for a very good reason, can't work, drive, or take care of themselves? How about someone who just doesn't have the mental capability to work a job? Or what about those who are unable mentally to understand hygiene, house care, cleaning, etc.? Well, what should we do? Well, we should love them and help them however we can. The feeble may not be able to learn. They probably respond well to correction, but may not ever learn fully what's wrong. Well, don't get mad at them. It's time for loving compassion for those with true needs. Most of the feeble I have met love God, but just can't do the everyday affairs of life due to physical, mental, or even financial issues. Psalm 72:13 says, He will spare the poor and needy, and will save the souls of the needy. So, the first 4 proverbial characters are the scoffer. They are scornful mockers. Do not correct them, punish them. And the second are the simple. They can change, and when they see the scoffer punished, they will become wise. Third, there's the fool. He's wise in his own eyes and knows everything. Rebuke him and tell him to wake up to the truth. And then the fourth is the feeble. They typically love God, but just can't do the everyday affairs of life, and they need our help. Our time is up. We'll continue with the 7 proverbial characters tomorrow. I call you blessed. You have been listening to the Choose You Netcast with Jim Langlois. If you have enjoyed this program, you can find out more about Jim Langlois Ministries on the Master's House website at tmhnow.org. That's tmhnow.org. On the Media tab, you can listen to many more messages, subscribe to my daily devotional emails, and follow the link to my blog site. If you'd like to write me or become a financial partner with this ministry, my address is The Master's House, Post Office Box 1568, Mechanicsville, Virginia, 23116. That's The Master's House, Post Office Box 1568, Mechanicsville, Virginia, 23116. Online donations can also be made at tmhnow.org, and my email address is pastorjim@tmhnow.org. This is Jim Langlois saying, be blessed, you and your whole household. Until next time.
Choose you this day, but that's for me and my house, me and my house, me and my house.